to the show, man. I think you're a guy after my own heart, man. By looking at your website, it didn't look like you're taking the normal story of about every subject seriously, or at least I could say you challenge every story that's been given to us. Fred, before we get going, and of course you've got the website, the main website there of want to know .info, which I have a link on the website. But how did you get into that research mode where you weren't completely convinced about all the news you've been getting is 100% legit?
Well, you might be interested, Daniel, that actually I was a debunker until 2001. And what happened was, basically, I saw, I don't know have you heard of Stephen Greer?
Yes, of course. Had him on the show.
Okay, well, yeah, Stephen Greer, a friend of mine sent me his video in 2001 of this National Press Club conference that he did, and watching 22 government and military witnesses cop up to their own personal involvement in a huge UFO cover-up. By the end of that video, literally my jaw was on the floor, and I said, oh my God, how, if this is going on, what else is going on? Mm-hmm. So I literally had a rude awakening in 2001, about 6 weeks before 9/11. And once that happened, then I started to say, okay, and I started investigating, actually got in contact with Greer and met with him. And he said, listen, dude, if you want to know what's really going on, he told me to, look at Michael Rupert's website and to do a bunch of different stuff. And sure enough, very quickly, I spiraled down that rabbit hole. And then what happened was, I said, okay, so who's doing a good job? Greer was doing a good job on the UFOs. Who else is covering all the major cover-ups, all these major craziness going on? And I want to support them. And I couldn't find anybody who was really doing it from a place of reliable and verifiable. So that's how I got started.
Wow. So it really just took a spark of information. And isn't that interesting how that a worldview that has been firmly established within us? I mean, because really, our worldviews really, aren't they really given to us? I mean, they're in the news media, they're in the education hierarchy, the military, you name it, even religious institutions, all are giving us information. So we develop this belief system. And one of those belief systems, of course,
yeah.
Well, part of that is ingrained in us to trust them because they've got the science, they've got the facts, they're an authority. Right. So why would they lie to you?
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it was really a rude awakening for me because I just, of course I knew there was cover-ups and corruption. Everyone knows that, right? Mm-hmm. But to see the level of it, the fact that there's this huge UFO presence that nobody is being allowed to know is like, mm-hmm. Oh my God. So it's exciting at the same time because as you know that it just takes everything to a new level, mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so the fact that most of these ETs seem to be here trying to help. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously they can't intervene too much because that somehow goes against their ethics, but. Mm-hmm. It's exciting when you get into the UFO stuff, but then when you start slipping over into the mind control, which I did after mm-hmm. a number of months, and I was like, oh, now that's ugly. That's really ugly.
Speaking of mind control, on our website, we do have a poll for the viewers and listeners of the show, and it has to do with what do you think is the main controller's use of mind control, how they do it the most. In fact, let me just click over there real quick for us, Fred, and so I'll give you an update on the poll question, and we established a poll question really for you on this program tonight. So your answers for favorite mind controllers is Hollywood, 5G network, electronic warfare, nanobots, social engineering, MK Ultra, chip implant. Let's see what the results are. Right now, we've got Hollywood at 20%, 5G at 5.6%, nanobots at 20%. Social engineering, that's a big one right there. It's 40% of the respondents, and then chip implants is 6.6%. So really, and social engineering is the buzzword, isn't it?
So yeah, I'm curious. So what would be your top one among those?
Oh, put me on the spot on my own show. I like it. I like it. Okay. I would say, believe it or not, I would say electronic warfare. I think there are sub channels on all of our electronic media that mm-hmm. is, for instance, you have a thought and think, wow, that's a weird thought. Maybe.
Right.
What's that?
Said you think that there are, and I'm saying actually that, and I know it too.
Yeah, well, of course, we've had a number of people on this show talking about electronic warfare, so I'm not just necessarily going that way because people have suggested it on the program, but I think it's a truism there. Of course, now I noticed one of them wasn't chemtrails, but chemtrails is a health issue, not necessarily a mind control thing. But
exactly, yeah.
But it already is, isn't it, Fred? If you believe that chemtrails don't exist, hasn't your mind been controlled?
Sure. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that there are people among the power elite. They pay people to go in and infiltrate every movement, including the chemtrails movement, to try to splinter the movements. Mm-hmm. And so what you find is that some of the information being put out on chemtrails is an exaggeration. And some of that is put out by these people that are put in there to try to get people to believe more and more outlandish things that aren't really true. Because, yes, it's absolutely true. But if you take it too far, then nobody will believe you. Mm-hmm. And so they actually pay people to do this, to take it and push it to the extreme.
But isn't that how we're being manipulated anyway when government makes outrageous statements, which everyone knows is not true? It's almost like I don't want to use the word Nazi because everybody does, but isn't that how they did it? They said something, a lie that was so egregious, so unbelievable that people believed it.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, that's what's going on with COVID. And I imagine most of your readers your listeners are up on this.
Mm-hmm. Well, they might as well be, because I got kicked off of YouTube for having, I got a ban. Yeah, I guess I did get kicked off YouTube. I got striked because I had a show on COVID, but I've had a number of people. So really, I guess the algorithm didn't catch some of the earlier ones. Right. But if you mention it, you might as well put a red flag out and say, come get me. And of course, I got another boot when I had a guest on the show talking about election, and I put election in the title of the description, and I got dinged again. I'm saying, what the hell?
Well, if they can censor the president, now you probably know they can censor anybody, right?
Yeah, well, that's a truism. Now you're seeing me in green screen, but what the people are seeing are various aspects of your website there, and the title right now, "Want to Know," is above us right now. So, what do you mean, want to know? Are you saying that you're telling to the people to come by, if you want to know what, the truth?
Yeah, but a lot of people are, for good reasons, don't want to know all the craziness going on in the world. They're overwhelmed in their lives, or it's just too much for them. It's understandable, but there's a lot of people that do want to know the truth and want to know what's really going on. And so that's why it's like I want to reach out to the people who want to know. I'm not trying to push people who don't know to try to force them to look at it, but I want to reach the people that want to know and can do something about it.
Mm. Well, the amount of people that can do something about it is decreasing by the day as we are all herded into different media platforms. I got another boot. YouTube's been hacking with me so much. I've been on the internet since 2004. I'm one of the longest running shows out there. I started right after Art Bell got off the coast, and
really cool.
So I've done over 1,000 shows just on Saturday, but the hacking I'm getting from YouTube, I gravitated over to Rumble. I thought, okay, there's a free speech network over there. And now I've got every single one of my videos, and there are a lot of them, and audio. I've got them all saved on local hard drives. But as far as on the internet, I'm starting to move into Rumble. Well, I mentioned on YouTube that I had a Rumble channel, and I got dinged again. What the hell? Fred, I'm not going to last much longer on YouTube, bud.
Well, unfortunately, you're seeing this happening all over the place. I'm surprised I haven't gotten hit yet. I don't run a podcast, but I post things, and so far, a couple things I posted on Facebook have gotten removed, but haven't been censored too much yet. Well,
I was really challenging them and trying to entice them, because when I was on YouTube, or when I was on Facebook, I finally got off of it. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take those Hoover over messages, partial truth, or look here, or info, or liar, or whatever they were saying. So I finally got off of there. But people would say, YouTube put me in prison for 30 days. I said, well, how come I'm not in Facebook prison? Because I wanted to go in there and check it out, see what's going on. And so I would post the exact same thing to get kicked off of Facebook, and it never did work.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
It seems pretty inconsistent. I don't know how they're doing the whole thing, and there are some people who've actually appealed and gotten put back on. Not common, but I have no idea. They keep all of their algorithms secret about how they do this stuff.
Well, that is it. It is algorithms and artificial intelligence doing most of the work. Imagine what they do is they siphon off some of the keywords. They see a code word of COVID in a title or election in a title. It may go to a human, but in general, I imagine their algorithms and artificial intelligence is just good enough to, because I barely got something up. When I put that link to Rumble, I mean, it was bink. I mean, right back to me. So that wasn't some naked guy
Right.
chewing bubble gum, watching Xena tapes,
Right.
at YouTube there. That was a computer.
Yep. Yeah, it's a shame, because it's, those platforms are so widely used that people are being forced. And now, of course, the people who don't know about everything going on, and they don't know about Rumble, it becomes a lot harder to reach them.
Now, isn't that just the idea, Fred Burks, of people moving to Rumble or MeWe or Parlor, herding people into these areas almost seems like here I go again with the Nazi thing, saying get on the train. We're going to take you. We're going to send you over to Parlor. We're going to send you over to Rumble, and it's going to be great for you there, okay? Because you're not really making it here with these people. So we're going to send you over here. It's going to be great for you. So I'm wondering if we are not really volunteering to go into another social media camp.
Well, that what's happening is then they're monitoring those sites much more closely. They may not have control over them, but at least now they know, okay, here's all the people that are the troublemakers. So we have them all in one spot and we can really watch them more closely.
Mm-hmm. Well,
they have this technology to break into any website and any podcast or anything.
Yeah. And I'd agree with you there. And I would say there is no hiding in this world.
Right.
I don't even think you can even get off grid and get away with it. Maybe for a while, but you got heat signatures, satellites looking down on you like,
the 5G stuff.
5G. I was thinking of the movie Enemy of the State. Remember 30 years ago, man, they were using that spy technology like that. But here we are 30 years later, and who knows what kind of stuff they got. And as far as your earlier comments about Stephen Greer, isn't he getting the last laugh with these tic tac video releases and such?
Well, you probably know, though, that that's a controlled release. It's like what they're trying to do is get people used to, because they realize it's going to come out, and it's already come out in some ways. And so they're trying to make it look like they're revealing it rather than it's actually already been out there for anybody who wants to look. So it's this controlled release. But yes, now it's easier to talk to people who are like, oh, yeah, well, look, even the New York Times has been saying these things are real,
Yeah. And I always seem to have a retraction. They never can seem to get the original story straight. Hey, man, but I got to talk about just a little bit of current news. Did you see the Biden trip video?
Uh-uh.
Oh, man. The internet keeps on giving, Fred, but
oh, yeah.
Joe Biden was going up Air Force One, and he tripped 3 times going up the stairs. Like, are you kidding me? And he just got done telling Putin he's a killer. And this guy can't even walk up the stairs, man. And it was pretty disgusting. I'm thinking, this guy's a leader of the free world, man. We're in for some trouble that way. All right. So we got your website up, and we got links on there. You got news, 9/11, banking, health, media, inspiration, elections, energy, mind control, war. What's one of your favorite? What's your favorite research genre?
I'd have to shift it and say the most important one, which is not really my favorite. I'd say my favorite's probably the UFOs, because that's just fascinating stuff. But the most important is the mind control, because in order to understand how all this is happening, all this social engineering and everything, you have to understand mind control. And there's such good information out there to show that they have been using mind control, not just for decades, but for centuries. And they've been really refining it, particularly the use of hypnosis and drugs, which they used on individuals and occasionally on smaller populations to manipulate people. And then you can start to understand how they can pull off something like 9/11, where you've actually got mind control over these terrorists or supposed terrorists, but they're actually your assets.
Supposed. Oh, man.
Right. So it's to understand mind control, I think it's the ugliest thing, and it's why a lot of people don't really want to look at it. And so
there you go, that. Fred. This is what I want to know. How do I know my thoughts are my own?
That's a great question, because I can show you stuff that we have the technology to implant thoughts into people's heads. And part of the problem is they've become masters at splitting personalities. And when you split a personality, it's still you, but you've had this personality split off, and then that voice they have control over.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not actually that voice, but they have control and they can program it. And yeah, it's a fascinating question. How much are our thoughts being controlled? How much are these airwaves, that we know they've been filled with radio waves,
Mm-hmm.
like the radio stations, for years and years. But now they actually have technology that can influence our emotions on a mass scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so how much of even our emotions that we're feeling, how much is the anxiety everybody is feeling? We know some of it's from like COVID and stuff, but how much of it is coming from these satellites that are emitting certain frequencies?
Well, okay, so I can't stand spinach, and I'm just wondering if they didn't put that in my brain, because spinach is supposed to be good for you, and you turn into Popeye. But
there you go.
How do I know? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know if it gets down to that level, but I would imagine if they could control emotions, the main emotion they'd want to generate would be fear.
Yes, fear and anxiety. Yeah. Because the more people are fear and anxiety, the more they look up to the government, save me, please, and they want to trust their government. Like when is it okay to talk about COVID? I'm happy not to if you're concerned about it.
Mm-hmm. I did a thought experiment one time, just in a conversation, and the question that I asked was, what were you worried about 30 years ago that caused you anxiety? And typically there's a pause, no matter who it is. Even if you ask me that question, there would be a pause. Well, why is there a pause? Well, because your anxiety and your fear, that was relative. It was a thing. Somebody once told me that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of what you think about that. And
yes, I very much agree with that. Yep.
So
how you interpret what happens.
And now that kind of just segues right into one of your, and I want to ask about one of your links that you sent me, and I think it's called, it's Web Love, and I'm thinking, well, man, and you got another one, personal growth courses. What's going on with the love thing there, Fred? You all love over there?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because my father was a minister. He was a Methodist minister, and I grew up in that sort of environment. And, I really, when I was a child, I really looked to Jesus Christ as a figure that I wanted to aspire to be like. And so I've always seen the value of love and connection. And yet I'm also willing to look deep into the dark shadows. And so when I first learned about all this stuff in 2001, like I said, I knew that if I was going to put this stuff out there, I wanted to balance it with stuff about reminding people that in our core, we're all beautiful beings. Mm-hmm. In our core, when a baby is born, it's this beautiful, laughing little, hunk of flesh.
Right.
And if we remember that even, Hitler was once a little baby, but things happened to him that made him who he was.
It's kind of hard to believe. I figure he come out of the womb putting people in the gas chambers, man. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. But that's weird. And speaking of weird, seems to me Bill Clinton seemed to have a parental structure just like Hitler did. Parent worked in government in a menial job, and one of them died off. I mean, I don't know, man. I thought they were grooming him for that kind of thing. Kind of like Boys of the Summer, with Gregory Peck. So, and I would imagine they're always trying to recreate things. But now, hey, we got Google. We've got Facebook. We've got all these giant social media platforms with massive computers. They don't know what to do with them, Apple, and I imagine that there are a bunch of freaking Frankensteins down in there trying to figure out how to manipulate people or create people or transfer people's consciousness into a machine. They're working 24/7 on that.
Right. Yep. It's crazy stuff. I'm going to pull the shade down because the sun is hitting here.
Okay.
Oh. There we go. Yeah, it's scary. You want to hear an interesting little story? Your listeners may or may not know that I worked in the State Department and interpreted for presidents and stuff. And when I was taking some people around, we went to a talk one time by Al Gore's science advisor. And what he was speaking, this was at George Washington University, speaking to an audience that we were in. And he said that because he had secret clearance, they took him into these deep projects where they were literally combining consciousness with machines. Mm-hmm. And this is about 15 years ago. And he said he had nightmares for weeks after the stuff he saw there, and this was all top secret stuff. So imagine if 15 years ago they're already doing stuff that's scary enough that causes him nightmares, where they're at now. It is kind of scary. It's like, whew, where's this going?
Well, yeah, I mean that goes back to my comment on enemy of the state when they were talking back and forth, and he goes, all the tech that you see is 25 years after or 25 years older than what the military has. Well, that was back in the 80s. So,
Yes.
who knows what now, speaking of that, do you think any of our technology has been accelerated as far as human control mechanisms worldwide by aliens?
Yeah, I'm sure that there is an alien influence in everything that's being developed, and it's not so simple. There are various alien factions, and some of them are more benign, and some of them aren't. So I'm sure that's happening. But I really want to stress, get back right to you asked about why I had these other websites. Mm-hmm. It's really important to me that we don't just spread fear, because it's scary. You look at this stuff and it's disgusting and it's scary, and I understand that people get really angry, but mm-hmm. that's not the purpose. The purpose is so that we educate ourselves and have more choice. So the web of love and moment of love are reminders that there's something else going on at the same time with all this. Mm-hmm. And part of the agenda is to make us forget our own sort of spirituality mm-hmm. and ethics and morals. And if we really remember that, and remember that there's this dance between shadow and light. So the personal growth courses, they're all about showing both the deep, dark stuff, but also there's some amazing stuff going on this planet that people don't know about because it never gets reported, because they don't report the good stuff very much.
Yeah. Now
so
in our chat, Fred, somebody put, it was a Kentucky girl says, now there's an oxymoron, Al Gore's science advisor. Well, I mean, he didn't. I mean, have to go there. He invented the internet, and so I appreciate him for that.
Right.
Though he's flying around in big, massive jets, polluting the world while he tells everybody they gotta ride scooters. So I don't know about that. But man, you even get into, on the left column of your want to know.info website, sex abuse rings, and they tried to laugh that one off, the Pizzagate, say, ha, there's no such thing. But right. Then you see John Podesta with his paintings. I don't know if you know about it, paintings of little children naked.
Got that on the website.
And yep. and then just the spirit cooking stuff and
yeah, spirit cooking. So if anybody wants to know, there's a search thing. Just type in the search Pizzagate, and you'll see we have solid stuff. I mean, rock solid. We have the video of the Pizzagate. You've probably seen, I can't remember her name, who's putting fake blood on the walls and says, eat sperm and all this.
Yeah, that's a spirit cooking woman who's doing that.
What's her name? Maria something of it.
Maria Freaktoid is what I call her. Hey, but then there's kind of a weird yucky thing going on with, it seemed like at some point Tom Hanks, I don't know, his Facebook or Twitter account, he kept having pictures of a single shoe, of a child's shoe. Are you aware of that?
I hadn't heard about that.
He's a spooky freak anyway, man. But then you got Joe Biden sniffing little girls' hair, and and then doing reach arounds on them and stuff. Are you kidding me? So, I mean, this thing is not just made up right-wing conspiracy stuff. This stuff's out in the open.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm sure you know about QAnon, and most of our listeners do too. Yeah. And that in the beginning, QAnon was like, it's not just Republicans or just Democrats. It's Democrats and Republicans. The Bushes were deep into all this mm-hmm. stuff. And so part of what I think the agenda is to keep us polarized, to keep Republicans and Democrats so hating each other that they won't believe anything the other side says. Mm-hmm. And I'm all about, this goes beyond parties. It goes beyond anything. This goes back to the truth and getting back to our morals and our spirituality. Mm-hmm. And if we remember that and stop trying to make people the enemy, because they want us to make people enemy. When you're fighting somebody else, you're not looking mm-hmm. above and seeing who's pulling the strings.
Somebody said the name was Abramovich.
Yes, Maria Abramovich. Yes, that's
Maria,
right.
I call her Maria Abramovich. So I can say that. It's my show. Don't care. I mean, they've already banned everywhere. Why not? I wear getting banned for saying what I want to say. I mean, right. That's like almost throwback stuff. People are you talk about fear. Everyone is concerned about, I mean, are you supposed to say something about Cat in the Hat now? He's gone. I mean, Mr. Potato Head, I mean,
and Washington was a slave owner, so they're going to have to change the name of our capital.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're picking and choosing, moving the goalpost all over. There's no sense to it. It's really, here's what it is, Fred Burks. There are people that don't work, they just, I don't want to say they don't work, because that's not, people work in different ways. They don't have a mission in life. They don't have a reason for being. They're not adding to the culture. So what they do is they feel empowered if they can go to Coca-Cola, type in some hate stuff, say, hey, you had somebody on the show. I mean, look, Nike, the Betsy Ross tennis shoe got banned by that freak football player dude. So all they got to do is complain to a corporation, and they're empowered to cancel somebody. So there's no rhyme or reason to it, and the goalposts. But so my view is, punch him in the face with the truth. I'm going to have some Mrs. Buttersworth on my pancakes. Okay. I'm going to have some white bread. Okay. I'm going to have some dark chocolate. I mean, what the hell? Oh, I'm not going to walk around worrying about these assholes telling me that, hey, that's racist if you do that. Oh, and then going back and looking at tweets from 20 years ago is what they're doing now. You got these hordes of little freaks on their computers when they're not playing war games on video, and when they're not, vaping. Then they're looking for stuff. They're looking for tweets, old tweets, and they can say, "Aha! I found it, and now I'm going after it." What a sick world.
Well, what I try to do, because if I understand that some people need to be punched in the face to see the truth and stuff, but I do my best to try to really understand where the people that are different from me are coming from, and I try to put out stuff that won't turn them off and will pull them in so that they'll actually open. I've actually been pretty successful. I've actually converted some key people. David Ray Griffin, you may know, he actually learned about 9/11 through our website.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, we need different approaches, but I have a kind of a softer approach of really trying, let's just put out stuff for the people that have, I say if they're at least 30% open mind, I can reach them. And, of course, a lot of people have no open mind, because of this cancel culture. People are just, you're good or you're bad. And when you're stuck in that level of polarization and thinking, I don't think it serves. And we have to be careful ourselves about saying, those, Biden and they're just, and, yes, there's stuff. But if we focus on making them the bad ones, Biden is a puppet. I think most of your listeners know that he's a puppet. And there's several levels above him, some of which we don't even know about, who are the ones that we should really be looking at.
Yeah. And what you were just going through there in your statements is exactly the mission of the Edge broadcast. If you start looking through the guest list there, it's pretty diverse. I mean, you can't say it's a UFO channel. It's not a religious channel, New Age channel. And the reason is, and it's always been the mission, I felt like people need to get in a room and try to get them in a room and just talk, And so, I've had numbers of people say they'll watch it, be watching the show, and then you'll see them click out. They'll say, I'm out of here. This is ridiculous. I can't listen to that. Well, they can't listen to that. But if I have found, Fred, and I know you found this too, that if you talk to somebody who's diametrically opposed to everything you believe, if you talk to them long enough as a decent and respectful way, you're going to get a chunk of truth. You're going to get a little nugget of truth from them.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's just a fact. And I don't care who it is. They're going to have, they've been given, it's almost as if it's a design that humans, we need each other. And you said earlier in the first hour about the separation of people in the categories to keep us separated, and even in social media, keep us separated so we can't communicate because we're a threat to the system when we do. So they want to say, hey, that person is evil because they say that they believe this or that. So don't talk to them. Put them in the category. That's the canceling them is what it is in effect. Now, because I have them on the show doesn't mean I agree with everything they're saying, and I'm not going to be taken over by demons because I just don't believe they have the power to do that. And in fact, here's what I believe, and I'll let you talk. That when you go into a room, you can't switch on the dark, but you can turn on the light. And if you're not in the room, there's not going to be any light shed. So there you go. You go ahead and say what you want. I'm done.
No, I totally agree with you. for me, it's about, you know, it's interesting because like a lot of my friends don't know about all the big cover-ups, but because I don't push it on them, but they know that I do this research. And so what I find is I just be that presence that they know that I'm a pretty cool guy. Most of my friends really like me. And that I'm into this crazy deep stuff. And what happens is when the time is right, I say, okay, Fred, I'm ready to hear now. Tell me about the UFOs, you know? And so by just being that presence, being that light, as you said, then there comes a time when people are ready to let go of some of their fear. And it's like, okay, let's look at this stuff.
Okay, we have a question on our chat line here for you. It says, Fred, is there going to be a civil war?
You know, it's funny because I always used to poo-poo that idea. And then when these last elections came around, I'm like, whoa, because a lot of people have been talking about it. It's like, I don't know. You know, I don't like to make predictions because in the beginning I did make some predictions and some were just flat wrong. It's like, you know, I'm going to stop trying to predict things. You know, I can tell you tendencies and where things seem like they're going, but I don't know if we're going towards a civil war.
And you also said something earlier I agree with, and that is there is a lot of negative information out there. And I try, you know, I'll have to say, you know, people want to know what I think about different subjects or current events. So, okay, so I'll talk about them. But a lot of times I feel like I'm amplifying negativity. And so I've really been battling back and forth on that, how to present it and how to deal with it. And one of the ways that I do deal with it is this. For 8 years, we had President Obama. And the country is still here.
Right.
The country didn't go into civil war.
Right.
Gas prices went up a little bit, and then the gas prices came down. The stock market went down. The stock market went up. I mean, I don't know that even the force of the federal government, as nasty as it is, the swampiest, creepiest freaks making money and social engineering the country, I don't know that they can get their change out to everybody like they think they can. You know, when I go get gas, I get gas, but I don't see government jackbooted thugs walking down the street. I don't see YouTube algorithm people. You know, I don't see people. You know, people working for Google. I don't see them. I don't know them. And if I don't get on Google, I don't care. How's that going to affect me? I'm still going to go to Walmart. You know, I'm still going to plant some seeds. I'm still going to raise my bees because I got bees. And so, so you know, it isn't. Maybe it just isn't that bad.
Well, I'll tell you a little story that's funny about that. You know, I mentioned my father was a minister, and he was actually also a conspiracy theorist. He was into Danny Sheehan and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, because when I was 10 years old, my dad was predicting the world's going to, you know, totally implode and there's going to be some World War III or something like that. And, you know, as a 10-year-old, like, wow, really? It's like, so I kind of lived my life like, who knows what's going to happen? And then it kept not happening. And my dad's kind of, maybe not now that he's 89, but he held on to that for most of his life. He really believed that, you know, soon the world's just going to implode, the economy is going to implode, there's going to be World War III. So I've been hearing that. One of the reasons I was a debunker is because I heard that all the time. So when I found out about all this stuff, interestingly, I had to call my dad and say, wow, Dad, you were more right than I thought. But at the same time, I'm still skeptical because I think the power elite likes having us to manipulate. They like having the money that we can generate and the stuff that we can do. So they don't want to really trash this world, but they want the conspiracy theorists to believe that they're going to trash us or kill us or whatever, because they want to keep us in fear too. Because when we're in fear, then we reach out and like, okay, who can I listen to? You know, that's going to. And so they're not looking inside anymore. And this is the key. You know, I am a spiritual guy. So when you really listen inside and sit in silence and it's like, okay, what is real? What's true for me? And really sit with that. And that's what I've always used to guide me in my work. It's like, okay, and ask for higher guidance. So, you know, God, help me out. You know, let's show me what's right and what's wrong. And that's where I find the real magic is. And, you know, I'm not embarrassed at all to say I've been guided.
Well, I'm
very clear.
I'm a conspiracy realist. All right. We got a question here for you. It says, Fred, what do you think, or what is your opinion on who or what is QAnon?
Well, so, you know, I'm not certain, but I'll tell you my own sort of best guess. I think in the beginning, QAnon was a pretty clean source. and is definitely somehow connected to Trump. That was very clear from some of the things that happened. But I think what happened is and it was also really about, let's expose the whole child trafficking. Let's expose the Clintons and the Bushes. Those who've been following it from the beginning, you'll remember they talked about it wasn't Democrat versus Republican. I think it was co-opted after about a year and a half, and it was taken over, and then it became, let's focus on the Democrats, and the Democrats are evil, because that created more polarization. So I think in the beginning I was more excited about it because, yes, it's not a partisan thing, and it's like both parties are very controlled. But then it turned into this whole thing that was like, oh, now it's the Democrats that are evil, and it's Hillary Clinton's the incarnation of the devil. And, to me, that was part of what they want the conspiracy theorists to believe. Like, believe that the Democrats are evil and the Republicans are the saviors. And I don't think that's a healthy attitude.
Well, I do know that when talking about they're all in on it, every time I see George Bush slip a piece of candy to Michael Obama, I get very concerned. I'm thinking, what's that? That is weird. Don't like it. Don't know what you're doing there, but you're a freak. That's what I got to say about that. So yeah, man, so QAnon kind of came and went, but now I'm going to lay in a little bit on the religious side here.
Sure.
You talk about your father and, and his beliefs. And we all know people that said that, the end's coming and you better pull your money out. You better buy gold. And man, there's some really, national type people who talk about buying gold, and they always talk about it more whenever there's a crisis. And and I'm not going to mention names, but I think people might know there are certain people in the Christian realm that every time there's a crisis, they say, well, you better put your money in the gold. Oh, by the way, I sell it.
Yes.
DEFCON 14.
So people want to make a buck off it.
Right.
And, I'll tell you, I have about 10% of my earnings in gold and silver, of my savings. And I think it's wise just in case. Right? Because the way I look at it, if things do crash, the price of gold and silver is going to surge like crazy. So you don't need to buy it all gold and silver, but be smart. Have a little bit just in case. Have a little bit of cash on hand, and at least like $10,000 if you can, just in case. And I've had that forever. It hasn't crashed, and I hope it doesn't. But if it does,
I was going to go on this. I'll start with the gold merchants, and then in the Christian realm, and then I'm going to go to. Wasn't there back in 77, they were saying heaven's coming in 77. And then it said, don't be late in 88. I mean, I'm talking about like there's going to be a war. There's going to be a stock market crash. There's going to be a civil
Y2K,
war.
Everything was going to crash.
So, and we're
then all these diseases, all these viruses that have come along, the Zika virus, the avian flu, the swine flu.
Right, that was going to be the end. I can predict there's going to be a virus coming here in the next 2 years. Another one, different one.
Okay. Well, yeah, pretty much every 2 to 4 years, there's a major virus. I'm not a prophet. Hit.
And I can predict that the stock market's going to go way down one day.
Yeah. And it'll come back up.
And then it'll come back up. Man, there's a lot of people make money off that, and they can't make money if it's dead. So
that's right.
So I don't know, man. I mean, I think of course, then somebody will say eventually, like after 50 years, let's say something does happen, and then somebody say, well, I told you so. Well, I could be concerned for 50 years, so I can have life. I can live my life, and I can try to make positive contributions and lift people up instead of putting fear on them. I mean, I'd rather have that as my history of 50 years rather than cowering down in a bunker somewhere with
absolutely,
so.
Yep. If you live in fear of the power elite, then they got you. Really. I invite all our listeners to think about it, that if you're living in fear of them, they got you. If instead you know that you're an amazing being and that you're on the right path, and don't let them manipulate you with their fear, because that's what they're trying to bombard the whole humanity with. I mean, look at what's happening. And when you step out of fear and live your life, like you say, live it full and pay attention to your kids, to your parents, to your family, to your friends, and really focus on that. Not in ignoring. Of course, we don't want anybody to ignore what's going on, but that's where the juice is. That's where I love my life. I have great friends. I have great family. My parents aren't doing so well, but they're 89. Wow. But I love my life.
Well, good. All right, so let's get back to your website here. You one down your list of things. There's something known as secret societies. Now, did you see the video when they were taking the vote for president and the Congress there, where Mike Pence was handed a gold coin?
No, I didn't.
Man, I'm going to have to put something on your website there. There's a video, remember, because Donald Trump wanted him to stop the elector, to intercede with the electors. He wanted the electors to go back to the states, and then he believed, and his lawyers believed, that that's constitutional. But Pence didn't do that. Pence basically said, whatever y'all want is good with me, kind of like Biden. But when he got done and they approved the electors, he was standing there at the podium with Nancy Pelosi, and then he reached his hand to shake somebody's hand, and they gave him a gold coin right there, and he looks at it.
Mike Pence.
Yeah, Mike Pence.
Wow.
That video, man.
No.
I mean, if you do, I'm sure the video is still out there. I've been trying to find out what kind of secret society payoff was that gold coin, and I was hoping
and that they caught it on video. I definitely like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, he got it, and he's looking at it. I'm thinking, now he's from my state here in Indiana. Okay. And so next time I see him was, hey man, why did you get paid that gold coin? What did you do? What did you do to earn that coin there, Mikey?
Right.
Just saying. I always thought he was on the up and up till he did that.
Well, the thing about the elections is, the elections have been manipulated for decades, if not centuries. And, both sides try to manipulate, sometimes one side much more than the other. And we've messed in the elections of, dozens and dozens of countries. Mm-hmm. So it's the whole hype about the election is just like.
Well, now you've just made another statement that's really current. And that is, so you got Biden calling the leader of Russia a killer. And the reason is because he wants to there's this whole narrative about Russia being evil. Russia.
Exactly.
So they're keeping it going even now. They're keeping it going even now. Okay. But then they got into China's face, and China came back and said, wait a minute. We're not the country going around the world starting these wars, trying to change cultures and civilizations. Did you know that in Afghanistan, the reason we're still there is because the military has been ordered to change their culture to a more feminine controlled culture? Well, they don't do that. They're man-centric over there and have been since the camels started walking across the desert taking a poop. But they've been trying to get gender studies. They're trying to infuse over there. And none of it's working. But that's what our military is being used for.
Well, that, and of course the oil, because it's pretty clear that Afghanistan and Iraq were about oil. Mm-hmm. Not just, but that was a key piece.
Well, for about 4 years, we weren't dependent on foreign oil. But guess what? Your boy got in there, and now we're going to be dependent on foreign oil. And we're going to be sending billions of dollars right back over there. And then we're going to start another. It's disgusting. I'm going to go there. I'm just not.
You got the Saudis, and one of the reasons that we are such strong supporters of the U.S. is strong supporters of the Saudis is because they are a key mind control place. Mm-hmm. They're doing crazy stuff over there.
Now, why are the Saudis always walking around in dresses?
Right.
Or those robes? I don't know. I don't even know. All right. So we got on your website now. Get back to there because, Ben, you've got, and it's really for people who want to know. They go to your website. All right. So I want to know about hidden knowledge. Who is hiding knowledge from us?
Well, of course, so many people are hiding knowledge because, most people I'm sure you and I at some point in our lives hide stuff from somebody because either we don't want to hurt them or we don't want to look bad. Mm-hmm. And so you take that and you blow it up to this global level. And, having worked with presidents as a language interpreter, they're human. They're just like us. They actually only have 24 hours a day. Think about the president of the United States has the same 24 hours a day we have, to do everything. And so they make compromises. And then it tends to be that you probably know this, that the sociopaths move to the top. The people who have no feelings and just say, oh, those people end up dying because of this. Well, it's going to save us $16 billion. So let it go. It's okay if people die. Mm-hmm. And this is just the way business works when it doesn't have a heart.
Mm. Okay. Well, speaking of having a heart, it looks like we've got a bunch of kids in cages on the border. We're not supposed to know about that. That's supposed to all been fixed. But instead, it's like 100 times worse. And it's going to get worse. So can the United States handle most of South America coming up here?
I don't know. I don't focus too much on that. Yeah, I do tend to think that the borders are like walls that do another thing that reinforces people seeing each other, like looking at the Mexicans as them.
Hmm.
So I really try to see, let's how the problem is that we have trashed, the U.S. government has trashed Central America left and right over the last
Mm.
75, well, not just 75, forever.
Yeah.
You know,
Give me some specifics on that.
oh, like the Somoza regime in, which was it, Nicaragua? Yeah, that just was just ruthless and let our big corporations come in and rake off the profits while keeping them super poor. And that's what we did all over South America. We get our corporations in there to rake out our profits and keep them poor.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is part of the power elite's agenda with us too. It's like as long as we are their servants, and we slave away, now husband and wife have to work full time to make a living, they believe. And so where is all that going? Well, a good chunk of that goes up to the power elite.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do this not just in other countries, they do it here.
Mm-hmm.
You look at how many poor people in the United States, really good people, are slaving away, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the pre-debate time era of the election, there, Joe Biden's in a one of his circle deals there, and he told somebody flat out that we can take 2 million people from South America today, wouldn't bat an eye. Clearly, we're going to hit that coming across the border. I mean, right now it's just thousands coming, and now there, of course, as you probably aware, there are caravans. And I'm not saying they're evil people. I'm thinking if I was down there, I'd probably come up here too, especially if I was offered free housing,
Right.
free healthcare, and now they're talking about flying the migrants from the border to the northern states of the United States. So they're getting first class because they're trying to place these people all over the country, and maybe even trying to change the demographics there to a certain political persuasion. But so if he said 2 million without a blink of an eye, what would you say that number could be? 5, 10, 15, 20?
I prefer not to go there, and I'll tell you why. Because it's the immigrant issue. It's like abortion. It's like there may be a right and wrong, and each of us has to decide on what's right and wrong for us. But it's used to divide us. It's used to polarize us. So the whole immigration issue, to me, it's being used. If you take sides on that strongly, then you're buying into the polarization.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to even. Never even thought like how many people could U.S. handle. It's like. Mm-hmm. I'm really looking at the higher levels of what's going on and how do we expose that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so from the immigration standpoint, what are the higher levels?
Well, the fact, scary thing for me is how these kids, because the kids are the ones that you use to mind control and as child sex slaves, that all these kids are getting isolated off. And what are they doing with these kids? We knew when the Haiti hurricane happened, that's when, Hillary Clinton had her people in there and getting these kids. And that's what's concerning to me, because when you're using that level of mind control and trafficking kids, that's,
mm-hmm.
That has to be.
Well, there's definitely a lot of you talk about want to know. I want to know who's sending these kids up. I want to know if cartels are making money off them. I want to know if they're being abused. And then I want to know, I want to know what the government is telling these kids.
Right. And like, who's organizing these caravans? Like, that's a really interesting question. I was like, they just started happening, about 6 or 8 years ago? I don't know. It's like,
yeah. When I see the caravans, everybody's got new clothes. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody's got new strollers. I'm thinking, wow, who's paying for the cell phones, man? I'm thinking something looks contrived here. All right. So we have a question. It said, Fred, do you think we should allow America to be trashed by illegal immigrations because our evil government trashed their countries?
Well, no, of course not. It's not about trashing. I think it's about realizing where we are being manipulated, including us who know all this stuff. Like I said, I have an article on there that I think it was CNBC who got the documents that showed that $4 billion a year was being used in public relations by the Pentagon. $4 billion. And of that, $500 million was being used specifically for PSYOPs. That's the title, PSYOPs, psychological operations, manipulating people's way of thinking. $500 million by the Pentagon alone. Then you got the CIA, you got the FBI, and you got tons of other money. They want to keep us polarized. And so for me, this is, and you're going to get this from me again and again, my stand is look at where we're polarizing, even as those who are aware of all the conspiracies and stuff. And if we're making them evil and wrong, we're buying into that agenda.
Right. So what you're suggesting then is they're not evil and wrong until they come into your community and then commit murders or the sex offenses.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. And particularly this is the whole thing, because I have little doubt that in the caravans there are people planted there who are come to make problems. It's like, the January 6th thing in our Capitol. I'm sure you and most of our listeners know, like, that there were agent provocateurs that caused that. Trump never wanted the Capitol to be defaced like that. I mean, of course, he had problems with what was going on, but it's like that was paid. I have little doubt that there was paid agents that went in and we're basically stirring up, okay, who's angry, who's ready to destroy some things, come with me, and pull out those people, which is a small minority, to go in and destroy the Capitol.
All right, a final immigration question. In this massive $1.9 trillion, I don't know what they call it. It's not a COVID bill because only 10% of the money or less, I think, actually does anything with COVID. The rest of it's got bridges to Canada. It's got subways in California. It's got payoffs to political donors. It's bailouts to cities that can't run their books right.
Yeah, they put pork all over it,
So it's pork all over it. But within that pork is the $1,400 checks going to people who cross the border. Do you agree with that?
Wait, people who cross the border are getting $1,400?
Yes. And Congress knew about it, and somebody tried to make an amendment, and it was voted down to take that part out.
Well, I'd be very interested. Please, I will want to report on that because I have not heard that. So if anybody has solid information on that, you can reach me on want to know that info. Please send it to me because that's important. I want to report on it.
Okay. Alrighty.
That's absolutely nuts.
Well, okay. Good to know there. All right. Now, so you have another link, top news stories. And the first one I come across here, it says Mexico pressing ahead with GMO corn, glyphosate bans. Now, I'm very interested in GMO stuff because I said earlier I'm a beekeeper and I don't want my bees eating any kind of freaking Frankenstein GMO creation out of a lab or glyphosate or nothing. But, in fact, my property is like an oasis because I'm the only property in the area that has dandelions. Everybody else kills them off, man. It really makes me mad. So I'm interested in that. But do you think that this GMO situation is and we talked about our poll that we have out about mind control,
right?
Is our poisoning of our food in any way related to mind control?
Absolutely. Yep. Part of it is to get people to not look at what they're putting in, all the added ingredients, and it trashes our bodies. And, the thing is, there is this medical industrial complex where our medical system is designed to make certain people very rich. And so the more sick we are, the more money they make. And you look at the GM, if you look at the studies that they're covering up and they're out there, we have some on our website. If you go to the GMO section, there's solid stuff on studies that have shown that you put 2 troughs out for the cows and one is GMO and the other is not. They don't want to touch the GMOs. The only time they'll eat them is when they have no choice. And so that says something.
And I'll tell you another thing that I have personally witnessed. I went to a county fair one time, and they were giving out Coke, and one was Diet Coke and one was real Coke. The bees wouldn't go to the Diet Coke.
That's right.
They understand. No. They understood that
aspartame is poison. Yeah. Aspartame is rat poison. Most people don't know that. Yeah. And aspartame is what they put into the, at least they used to. I don't know how much they still do into the sweetened non-sugar drinks.
Mm-hmm. And then I tell people about diet stuff anyway. What's the first 3 letters of diet? So when you get
I haven't thought of that.
When you get a Diet Coke or a diet cookie or a diet this or that. Whew.
That's good.
I like that one there. That's a little mind thing that can stick around for a bit. All right, so we got we want to talk about health now. If I talk about COVID too much or probably at all, I'm going to get banned off of YouTube and get another strike. So maybe we'll pass that out.
That's fine.
Yeah. What's the best way for people to keep their health to fight off viruses?
Well, I would say number one, really, I stopped eating non-organics because the safest way to keep the GMOs and all the other crazy stuff, the antibiotics and all that stuff, is to eat organic. And it's more expensive, but I think health is more important. So eating right, and then of course it's really simple, eat right and exercise.
Mm-hmm.
If you care about yourself and you care about your body and you want to live to be healthy and vibrant at a certain age, put at least 20 minutes a day, at least 3 days a week into some kind of exercise, because that's going to make you feel better and your mind clearer.
Well, I
actually exercise an hour a day on average, more than an hour a day. Nice. And I love it. My body loves it. And I'm in great shape for 63.
All right. Somebody once said that you can either pay for organic good eating or you can pay for the hospital later. So whatever you want.
There you go. It's a great way of putting it.
All right. Now, let's got some more questions coming in for you, Fred, from Rapid Fire out of the live chat. Is it true they're even putting the bad stuff into vitamins and supplements?
I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't heard much about that, but it would not surprise me. And this is where, it is important sometimes to look at the company. Don't trust the Chinese companies. The Chinese tend to be putting stuff into some of theirs. Unless, there's one or two, I imagine, that you can find that are good, but.
Yeah, I don't think we should trust the Chinese. They're a country without a soul. They're mechanical in what they do and their social scoring and things. They look at people as numbers, as commodities, as controllable assets, and what's good for the state. And usually it doesn't turn out well for the individual when you have an attitude like that. All right, so. This is a question.
I just want to make a comment on that because I lived in China for 2 years.
Okay, go ahead.
Back 83 to 85. Mm-hmm. And, you really got to be careful about separating out the government from the people.
Mm-hmm.
And you look in the U.S., I'm very careful. And even the government, the government isn't one body. There's all these factions fighting against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the Chinese government is very, it's top down. It is like intense hierarchy that is, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the people are great. I lived there for 2 years, had some wonderful friends.
Well, that's great. And I love Chinese food. Let me ask something. When you was over there, did you ever have any fried dog?
No, I was not interested. That's only in a southern part of China, and I had zero interest in that.
Okay, what about monkey brains?
No, I certainly heard about it. Again, that's a southern China. I don't know why they do that there. And yeah, it's ugly. It's like
they try to get smarter.
Yeah. Well, they believe it's a sex. What are you, aphrodisiac and stuff like that.
So I want to know. Does our government have knowledge of unlimited power in a Tesla, so to speak, way? Do they have the technology to create power that would get us off of fossil fuel and even wind and stuff?
Yeah.
Or that
you touched on this earlier when you said that the secret government projects are at least a full generation ahead of anything that's out in public.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I found consistently. And sometimes they're far in advance of anything that's out there in the public. And so, yeah, they've got, I'm sure that they have, energy that taps into what's called the 0 point field. Science now acknowledges that there's this 0 point energy field in a vacuum that if you can tap into it, it's unlimited energy.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've met several people who are sharp scientists who've investigated this thoroughly, and I have not seen it myself, but they personally have seen devices that they have zero doubt it creates more energy than it goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to release these because they feel like, if the government the government already has some of this, we know, but that it's too dangerous to put out there because people will misuse it.
Mm-hmm. Back to the alien connection there. There's been so many stories about our government making deals with the aliens that it goes like something like they can abduct people, do their experiments. In return, they're supposed to give us some technology. And that's why it's about the phone or any other technology, especially the tracking because it seems to me worldwide tracking works for an alien entity that wants to take over the world. In fact, my view of that is the aliens themselves probably say this world has got to be leveled out for us to control everybody, right? But they're not giving us any technology, and then the story also goes on that they broke the deal. They just start taking people without, and they're supposed to tell us who they were, I guess, so we can keep a record. Then they just stopped giving us the knowledge, and then they stopped giving us the data. Have you heard anything like that?
I certainly have heard all that. Yes. I don't want to go into it in too much depth, but there is. Because that is really hard to get solid information on. What wantto-know.info focuses on specifically stuff that you can go and verify. You can see the declassified government documents. You can see these stories that were covered up. And that one is just so much harder to know what's really gone. But I did write a speculative essay on my own beliefs on what's going on with the whole ET thing. And I do think that there is manipulation, and there have been actually some government agreements. But to actually be able to prove that, it's hard to say. So I whenever I talk about this stuff, I am speculating. I don't know for certain, but
I speculate every week.
Right. It's fun to speculate.
What are they gonna do?
Let's realize that this is speculation, and it's like that's in the gray box.
Okay.
Like, there's things that I absolutely know are true. There's things I absolutely know are not true. But there's a huge gray box that I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it can start with banning people for saying that they believe the election was rigged.
Right.
But you have to be an idiot to say that it was the cleanest election ever and nobody cheated anywhere and those ballots in the dumpster, that's just normal stuff. And people, 300,000 spikes in vote when nobody was even there. We're not supposed to look at that. And if you do, then so it's easy for the system to say, if you say something about the election, we're going to ban you, which is what happened to me and a lot of other people. Or if you say something about COVID, you don't believe that the vaccine is healthy, or you don't believe, you should wear a mask or something. So really, so now we got those two main things, but it's going to go on from there. It's going to go on to, it's going to also
belief management. They want to control our beliefs, and they want to control what is okay to talk about and what is not. Mm-hmm. And so, you're seeing more and more push, and you're seeing more and more push back, because some very cool people, like even, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has come out really strong now. And there's a number of other, Catherine Rawson Fitts, you probably know about, people who are pretty powerful, influential people are saying this is wrong.
Yeah. I'll give you another one. Bill Maher, he's saying that girl that got canceled from Teen Vogue for a tweet she made years ago, that's what I talked about earlier. Somebody went back in her history, looked at every tweet, and you can even if you delete your tweet, it's still out there. So somebody can find it if they want to. But so they're going after that. And he said, well, their goalposts, and he agreed with basically what I said earlier, the goalposts being moved. And he said, and the Republicans aren't the one that canceled her. So I like it when somebody calls out their sort of side, I guess if you call it that. I've called out my side all the time. I call them out all the time. I don't even like to be called on the right. I don't like to be called on the left. So I'm an equal opportunity offender. Oh
yeah, I know I'm doing well when I hear from both sides, because we have wantto-know.info has a lot of really progressive and even Democrats, a lot of Republicans and conservatives, and a lot in between. We have atheists, with people who are spiritual, people who are totally into what's his name, Billy Meyer, who's a UFO guy.
Yeah, Billy Myers, yeah.
Yeah, and all of them telling me, I'm wrong, because I'm trying to hold that middle ground. I'm trying to say I don't want to polarize. And so if I'm hearing it from both sides, I know I'm doing good.
Well, there you go. I know exactly how you feel on that one. All right. Question says, Fred, are you aware of DNA harvesting?
I've heard a little about that. And, there's a whole story and among respected UFO researchers that is about, using human DNA to mix with alien DNA to create whatever, for whatever reasons. So, I'm aware of that, and I don't have anything solid on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can say that whatever those DNA harvesting companies are, like there's like I don't know, me and you or me and thee or something.
Oh, right. Something 23. Me
And
23 or something like
right,
that.
me, right, and that, and they say all you got to is send them some blood, and they'll tell you where you're from and all that. I'm not sending my blood because it seems to me right there, somebody that information of your DNA makeup is going somewhere, and I'm thinking actually, and I'm going to go full conspiracy here. I think they're looking for something. They're looking for a strand of DNA that's either lost in human civilization that has certain traits that they want. How you like that?
That makes sense. I haven't thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. That's interesting information. Yeah. I do know that, so that is a different kind of harvesting DNA. Yes, that these companies are putting all of that into a database, and of course the intelligence services are being fed these databases. So I haven't thought, but yeah, they're probably looking for, they've realized and isolated that certain strands are probably really good that they want to focus on and get these people, and others are really bad and we need to stop these people. So thank you. That's I hadn't thought about.
Oh, that's what I do, Fred. That is what I do. So people say that in the future there's going to be what's prophesied as an antichrist. Are you aware of that, and who do you think it is?
I'm certainly aware of that, and it's the same thing as, there's going to be the second coming of Christ, or that the mothership's going to come save us. I've been hearing these things for ages. Is there an antichrist that's going to come destroy us? I think you could already name a few people that you think are the antichrist. People could say Hitler was the antichrist. So to me, that is that black and white thinking that there's a savior or there's an evil devil. And it's like, I don't find that's very useful in my life. And that's not the kind of stuff I'm trying to put out, ways that we don't look at things as good and evil. We look at what's out there so that we can have better choice to really live better lives and be better people.
Now, somebody said in the chat, they just continued with that thread and said it may be possible that these COVID tests are also hunting around for something.
Yes, and I've heard that, and I totally believe it's possible. I don't know how much. Look
at that's not crazy talk there, because that's what happened with social media. Facebook says, hey, that goofy looking Skeletor freak running that thing, Zuckerberg or whatever his name is, skinny jean wearing latte drinking freak. Okay, so everybody come on in. Oh man, we got a place called the Facebook. Okay, you meet all your friends. You're gonna have all kind of fun. You're gonna talk to them. You're gonna share cat videos. Blah 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 blah. Well, what did you end up with? They know who you are. They know what you're doing. They know what you buy. They know what you look at. They know who you're talking to. They know where you live. They've got a whole algorithm built around you, and all you do is just volunteer to come on in.
They're harvesting your email and figuring out your patterns and
right, exactly. They know what you're going to think before you do, and they'll put something. Right. Then all of a sudden, something will appear there that they know you're going to thinking about buying before you even know you're going to. But that's the same kind of thing with your COVID test and your DNA test or your blood test or your history test. Is come on in. But meanwhile, these people, again, it goes back to the soulless corporations. You even mentioned them in their South America behavior, and of course worldwide behavior as well.
Right.
So that's what they're doing. That's what they did with the social media, and everybody agreed to it. And the next thing you know, they're controlling what you think.
Right. There's this corporatocracy where, we're moving, a part of what Hitler was all about was getting his corporations to rule the world. And basically, we're seeing another iteration of that where, now corporations are persons, right? That they have the rights of a person. And that created all sorts of craziness. And when you have corporations ruling the world, and, the vast majority of corporations have no heart. It's all about business and bottom line. It's not going to be pretty. And this is where I do my best, to not be in a big bank. I have a really small local family-run bank that's really good, and to get my money and put my money where it's going to do some good, and not just do the easiest, cheapest thing. It's like buying organic is more expensive, but which is more important, your health or your money? Okay,
we've got another question. Well, that has to do with illegal immigrants. I think we'll move on from there. We covered that topic there. All right, so we got on your website, New Energy Information Center, and the sublinks, New Energy Technology, Best Free Energy Videos, Most Important Energy Videos. Where do you see our energy in the future? I don't like fossil fuels, and I don't like to see windmills chopping up birds, man. I mean, they say there are more eagles killed by those windmills. And besides, they're unsightly as hell. They make a humming noise. And then think about the money and the technology and the energy it takes to produce those. And then you have to go fix those. You have to build those. I mean, how much, when does it recover? But anyway, I don't like any of that. So what do we got?
Well, the thing is, if you really research this area thoroughly, as I said, I think there are devices that they're called over-unity devices, where they actually put out more energy than it takes to run them. And so you basically then have access to unlimited energy. And I think the government has it. I think there are certain private groups and individuals that have this, but they're keeping it from everybody because if everybody has their own individual power device, suddenly you're freed from the grid. Mm-hmm. And they don't want that.
Right. And I can tell you, there have been numerous people that have gotten off the grid that have been sued by local communities demanding that they get back on the grid.
That's right.
Really? Are you kidding me? So do you think that I didn't see anything necessarily historical on your website there, but do you think that at some point in Earth's history, they had this free energy technology?
Well, Tesla was tapping into some of that. Tesla's a fascinating character if you study him. He was born in late 1800s, and he had this whole thing that's well acknowledged where they were translating or shooting electricity miles across to another thing, and it was working. And he was shut down because the big oil money saw that, we can't put a meter on this. That was what J.P. Morgan said to Tesla. I think it was J.P. Morgan that was one of his big financiers. And as soon as he found out he couldn't put a meter on it and make money off it, he cut Tesla off. Oh. And Tesla, died alone. And even though he's this genius, so there's a lot of vested interest in energy.
Yeah, I remember back in the 80s, somebody came up with a carburetor that ran on water.
Oh yeah. My friend's father knew somebody that created a device. I know personally a guy who created some stuff that would be amazing, and I saw how he was shut down. In fact, by then I was already up on all this stuff, and I told him, "You better be careful if this happened." And he was kind of stupid, and sure enough, he had bullet holes through his office window. His company, $7 million company, was taken over. And you hear about this if you ask around. It's happening all over the place. The oil people don't want us to be independent energy-wise.
A question came in for you. Says, how have you managed to stay alive all these years?
I get asked that one almost every interview. I'll say that it's really because of my spiritual attitude. I'm very aware, as I said, that everybody in their core is, to me, this beautiful divine being. We all come from God. We all come from the same divine source. And if you really live that way, when I put stuff out, it's about targeting behavior. I never target individuals. And what you find out is what most pisses off the elite is if you target them as their personality, they'll come after you because that's like an insult. They're human and they get upset like that. But if you just target their behavior, when you did this for $1 billion and ended up killing these people, that was just wrong. I'm not actually denigrating their character. I'm pointing out their behavior that I think needs to change. And they even know that that's not cool, right? Mm-hmm. So I believe the reason I've had a few threats, but very minor. And I've had friends that do similar work and have much worse. A friend of mine had to move to Europe to get away from what they were doing to him. Mm-hmm. But I have been bothered very little because I don't attack people. I focus on behavior. And I say, this is wrong and this has to stop.
Fred, are you in a trailer?
I live in an RV, yes.
An RV, okay. See, only person with a trailer would know that.
Everybody who lives in a trailer or spends a lot of time knows that, yes, because you can tell.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And talk about encouraging. I'm encouraged because at some point I'm going to have to take this show on the road with my trailer, and I just need to know you're obviously broadcasting from your trailer.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty cool because they have these solar panels and stuff now, so that you can be totally off the grid, and you can just go for pretty much a month if you're conservative and not need anything. And
so are you on the Wi-Fi of the park, or you got something else going?
Currently, a friend has an acre up in the hills, and he has a house there, and I'm just off to the side of the house. So I actually have a shoreline where I get electricity in here. But I'm pretty new to this. I've only been living in an RV for a year. I just got the solar panels and stuff, so that now I won't even need that electricity, and I can just go anywhere. Wow. And it's pretty cool.
Wow. Talk about off the grid.
Yeah, it's really great.
Once they
it's like,
triangulate your location, you just simply move.
well, and part of it is, this whole vaccines. I really don't want to get a vaccine, and when it comes down to it, I'm just going to tootle down the road.
Well, wait a minute now, Fred. Is that conspiracy talk? Not wanting to take the vaccine? It's going to help. It's going to help you. It's going to help you.
Yeah.
I'm not taking it either. But we all know what's coming. They're going to be looking for people who don't have it.
But you know what? There's too many people that are refusing. I'm telling you, there's at least 20% of Americans that are like, no way, I'm going to take this thing. And they're not going to get away with trying to mandate it. I can tell you. Or if they do, there will be a huge something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that something could trigger an algorithm. So it's a something right there.
Yes, it's unpredictable, but I think that they're going to have a very tough time mandating that.
Right. If somebody is demanding that you go somewhere where there's some people, they might be dressed in white, they might have a mask, they might have something in their hand, it might be pointy, and it might be something in it. So I don't think your algorithm's going to, and whatever that is in it, you don't want it. Okay.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure that'll clear the algorithm right there. I like playing games with them too. I mean, that's what I say. I played games with Facebook for a long time, trying to trick them into banning me. Couldn't do it. I wanted that badge of honor. So, okay. All right. So now look back at your website. And by the way, I just saw somebody said they love your website.
Cool.
We got Lifting the Veil.
Now, that is great. Okay. Yeah. This is awesome. Lifting the Veil is an online book that this guy Timothy Silver put together. He's just this kind of an Asperger's genius, and he took all of this information to just lay it out in one book. All of the huge cover-ups. The only one he didn't really go into much was the UFOs, which I understand why he didn't. But he's just got all the links, and you can see as you read through the book. You click on the footnotes, and it's solid sources. And so he said he really appreciated my website because he drew on our website a lot for putting together that book. And it's an amazing piece of work. If people want to look at one thing, take a look at that Lifting the Veil. It's really well done.
It says a subtitle, An Investigative History of the United States Pathocracy. What in the world is that?
Pathocracy, yeah.
Pathocracy.
So in other words, there's democracy, there's all sorts of ocracies, and pathos means sick. Pathocracy is the sick system. Yeah, sick system that is running many things in the U.S.
Okay, all right, and then get down to really the second to the last sublink on the left. What you can do. Now you say there are many things you can do to help to reveal major cover-ups and work together to build a brighter future. Fred, in any way have we attempted to build a little brighter future here tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what you and I are doing, and I feel this kinship with you on this, is trying to educate people who want to know. And it's like for people who want to have more choice in their life. Now, I'm big on choice. It's like the more educated you are, the better choices you can make to support yourself and all around you. And so, yeah, I thank you. That's why I'm on here with you, is because I know that we can inspire people to it's okay to look at this stuff. And I'm a big stand for let's avoid that polarization thing. Whenever you're seeing them as evil and us as good, you are supporting the agenda.
Okay, so now I got a little self-aggrandizement here. Somebody wrote in, says, in uncertain times, it's good that God has given us some heroes to believe in, like the Cosmic Cowboy.
Right on. The Cosmic Cowboy. I love it. And,
we all got to have a niche, man. Now, by the way, my cowboy authenticity has been challenged many times.
Well, you're from Indiana after all.
Why can't I be a cowboy? Why can't I be a cowboy even though I'm in Indiana? See, I don't say Indiana, I say Indiana. That right there that's a qualifier.
Okay.
Shucks or crick.
Shucks.
You don't got a creek, you got a crick. I can say there's a crick out back. That's pure cowboy right there. Just saying.
That's great.
Just saying. All right. Well, listen, Fred, we're getting near the end of the broadcast. I want to give you the final moments to say anything about your website, your life, your health, what you need, anything you would like people to know, whatever you want.
Yeah, I guess, as I said, I'm a kind of a spiritual guy. And even for people who we have differing spiritual beliefs, most people believe that there's something greater than us. And if you really, this has been my key, is I always open, like, help me when I get information that's like shocking or whatever, it makes me start feeling polarized, like open up and ask for guidance. Because I believe we do have kind of guardian angels that work with us. And if you really do that as you're exploring these, really sometimes disgusting topics, it can make it much more palatable, and then you can get a bigger picture. So that's just a little piece of advice I would offer to everyone.
Okay. Well, Fred Burks, I appreciate you coming on Edge Broadcast. What'd you think about it?
Great. Thank you. I love your attitude, and I love that you bring humor into it, which is important on this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I love that you're helping to educate people and inspire them.
All right. Well, we'll ask you back on the show in the future. In the meantime, this program will be uploaded to our Rumble channel. And then when I should be allowed back on YouTube by the next week, and it'll go up on YouTube. See if I get another strike. If I get another strike, I gotta blame you, man. Or I'll thank you. I don't know, blame you or thank you. I don't know which. But anyway, and then there's gonna be a podcast up there too as well. So Fred Burks, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to all our listeners. And yeah, let's do this thing. Let's transform this world,
I'm all for it, bro.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Take care.